Hello, this is a guy who likes fanfiction and is too lazy to read, so here is from the corner of your eye in audio form. Check the description for the links to the author. Chapter 61, Secrets of the Uzumaki, Naruto Interlude. Naruto runs. He can't help it, he needs to, can't bear being there for even a second longer. He can see how much that helps Karen, how much better she looks from even just a few minutes. Naruto's the one that's been awakening every time she has a nightmare, and forget switching mattresses, they've been sleeping curled together almost every single night. Between what happened with Kabuto, who sometimes shows up in Naruto's nightmares, even, because he gets them too, and what happened with Itachi, Karen deserves something like this, deserves to feel better. But Naruto, he can't handle it. He runs. His thoughts whirl and skip and scatter, grinding up against each other, sparks flying, and Naruto does his best to focus on the trees around him as he runs. There's no burning in his legs, he's barely breathing heavy, and Naruto speeds up. He wants that burn, he needs that burn, just something to distract. There's a tree root he misses and he goes sprawling. For a second he just lays there. Stunned, kinda, but any good ninja can just get right back. There's grass under his fingers and his cheek, and it's distracting, and just the faintest sounds of someone following him, and that's distracting too, and Naruto focuses on that, trying to guess who it is, but he doesn't really need to guess, does he? Sasuke lands lightly next to his head. Naruto, he says, and his feet are blurred, and oh, okay, Naruto's crying. His teammate doesn't do anything at first, just crouches there quietly while Naruto cries softly into the dirt, and then he puts a hand on Naruto's back. It's feather light, barely noticeable at first, but it's what makes Naruto snap, and he lunges upward to bowl over Sasuke, wrapping his arms around the other and burying his face in Sasuke's chest and bawling. He's a mess. A mess, snot and tears everywhere, and he can feel the hesitation in Sasuke, feel the creak of his ribs under Naruto's grip, and then his teammate and his best friend, one of his most important people, Sasuke, is carefully hugging him back. If, months ago, when all this started, you would have told him this would happen, Naruto would have thought you were crazy. He still feels kinda crazy, that this is happening. That this is real. Inexplicably, he thinks of Haku. Sasuke is his precious person, and Haku had talked about protecting your precious people, and if Sasuke's hugging him back, if he's protecting him like this, then it's the same, right? Sasuke had said that they were best friends, had admitted it, but he knows that Ino and Sakura were best friends once upon a time, maybe? Are again, so best friends can look super different for a lot of people. It doesn't really matter, but it's something his brain can latch onto, something he can think about. That's not everything else, and he's getting snot all over Sasuke's shirt, but the other doesn't say anything, so Naruto just cries. He's terrible of keeping track of time even when he's not crying like this, so Naruto's got no clue how much time he's been getting Sasuke's shirt all snotty, but by the time he's cried himself out, it's well and truly dark. It's just him and Sasuke in the middle of a dark forest, and even though that should be kinda frightening, Yamato-sensei and the others really aren't very far, and he feels safe. A lot better now that he's cried all that out. Sorry, he manages to get out, but he doesn't move, and Sasuke just lets him be. Naruto doesn't dare to look up to see what his face is, but it takes Sasuke a second to answer. Why, he asks, and Naruto tries to put his jumbled, clattering, sparking mess of thoughts into words. He doesn't think he needs to talk about how this is the first Uzumaki thing he's seen like, ever. Sasuke knows it. Sasuke's the reason he has people in Omegakure that he just sent a letter off to. Sasuke knows, and it's really embarrassing how much Naruto doesn't know what he'd do without him. Without this precious bond. It's a thought he shies away from, cause again it's a really embarrassing. It's just a day's walk, he mumbles. He doesn't need to be loud. It's just them. And actually, yeah, he's together enough, so he pulls himself away from Sasuke, finally, sitting up, and wiping his nose on his sleeve, and then sitting next to him, instead. He still doesn't look at Sasuke's face, doesn't meet his eyes, staring down at his feet instead. The old man. He knew. He's the Hokage, no way he didn't. His stomach clenches, and he doesn't like thinking about the old man like this. About how he didn't let Naruto know about his parents or the fox or even anything about the Uzumaki clan, and when there's Uzumaki stuff right here, there's no way. If Karen wasn't here, nobody woulda told me, he says, and he knows he's right. Not out of being mean or anything, but it wouldn't have happened. And I don't think anybody woulda told me about the secret writing, or that Uzumaki use seals, or that the swirl on my jacket's a Uzumaki sign. He feels like taking it off, ripping it off, but he thinks he'd be chilly and he doesn't understand how Sasuke's fine without any sleeves. It's Dash. Naruto tries to put it together, tries to string his words into something that makes sense, and he finds himself tearing up again. It's they all want me to be like my dad, he bursts out, and he finally meets Sasuke's gaze. He's staring at him, wide-eyed, and when their eyes meet he moves just a touch closer so their shoulders are touching, and it makes Naruto feel better. The pervy sage trains me cause of my dad, I know that, and he taught me his jutsu, and Rasengan's cool, and Toads are cool, too, but Dad did and nobody's really taught me anything else, and seals are an Uzumaki thing, but the fourth Hokage did them, was an expert in them. Naruto doesn't want to be even more like him. Not that there's anything wrong with his dad, but pervy sage has only trained him because of that. He knows it. Kakashi-sensei taught him some stuff, but he taught everyone that stuff, not just him. Same with Yamato-sensei. Is it wrong to want something that's just his? Sasuke's quiet for a moment. Do you still want to be Hokage? It's probably the last thing Naruto expected, and he stares at him. Do? What? Well, your father is the fourth Hokage. Sasuke looks away, thinking something over. If you don't want to be like your dad, do you want to? That's... Naruto swallows sharply, and it hurts going down. His voice is small, and he curls his hand in his jacket. I think, yes, of course. Part of him screams, because it's something he's wanted probably his whole life. Are you sure? Asks another part, because he had only ever, originally, wanted to be Hokage to have people look at him and not treat him like trash. But he thinks of Haku, and what he said. And of Oboro, and of the CRA of Anko, of the way that Karen fell in Itaka's grasp, and of Sasuke nearly killing a genin, and of the way that Sakura screamed, and how Kakashi-sensei can barely walk, and I think so, he says, softly. I want to protect my dash. His ears burn, just a little, but it's definitely not the most embarrassing thing he's ever said. My precious people, and Hokages can protect theirs. Like how his dad had given his life, and how the old man had, too. I just dunno how, and what to learn. You've got your swords, and dash. No, says Sasuke, and okay what? Sasuke ducks his head. I'm going to train and be a Mednin, he says, hushed and quiet as if Naruto's gonna say something mean about that. His shoulders are up, tense. Naruto really doesn't know what to make about that response. Why would he be mean about that? And so he bumps his shoulder into Sasuke's again and shrugs. Okay, so you got your swords and Mednin stuff. I still dunno what I want to do. Yeah, Sakura doesn't either, at least Naruto thinks, but he's pretty sure he knows what Karen's gonna do, and Sasuke stands up, and offers Naruto his hand. If you're okay now, we should go back. Maybe Karen can help you find some ideas in the books. It's as good an idea as any, even if it's nice to talk to Sasuke even if there's not really any conclusions or solutions, and he takes his hand and stands up. Sasuke doesn't pull his hand away, even once Naruto's up, and they hold hands instead as they start to walk. Which is nice. He's not complaining. They're walking slowly, civilian-level walking, when Sasuke stops. There's a wrinkle in his forehead and he doesn't meet Naruto's eyes. Sasuke. Sasuke exhales. Naruto, he says. If you had to choose between the village and the team, which would you choose? Naruto wrinkles up his face, confused. Sasuke's so weird, sometimes. Isn't our team part of the village? The team and the rest of the village, then. Sasuke rolls his eyes, but hey, Naruto had been serious. It's a very strange question out of nowhere, and Naruto's not sure what to make of it. They stand there for a moment in the forest, holding hands, and Sasuke lets Naruto think. A Hokage answer would be the village, he thinks. but he tries to imagine the old hag sacrificing Shizun for the village after the way she freaked out in the fight, and it's something that's tough to imagine. He wonders if Dad would have sacrificed his mom for the village. Or Naruto. The team, I guess, Naruto says, and it's not a very Hokage-like answer, and maybe that says a lot about that he shouldn't be, but he's not gonna lie. I don't want it to ever happen, but if I gotta choose. He puffs out his cheeks and then exhales hard, lips blowing. You guys. Why? Sasuke shrugs. Curious, and when Naruto opens his mouth to be like hey, that's not an answer, Sasuke shakes his head. Later. Not right now, okay. Naruto deflates. Ugh, fine. When they finally emerge back in the clearing where the secret Uzumaki temple building is, Karen body slams into him and Naruto drops with a yelp. Sasuke gets dragged down too cause Naruto didn't let go and all three are dazed on the ground and Sakura stands over them, hands on her hips. We were about to come after you, she scolds them, but Naruto's not an idiot and he can see the relief written in every line of her body. Karen sniffles a little, and Naruto glances down at her, finally letting go of Sasuke and sitting up, his cousin on his lap. She's not crying, but she's upset, and she shoves a paper at his chest. Here. What? Just open it, dummy, she says, carefully wiping at the corners of her eyes. He does. He's not actually sure what it is, at first, cause he can't read half of it, and he squints at it until it clicks. Oh. The paper holds symbols, holds the secret Uzumaki symbols, and the meaning for each one, and he stares at it openly and then stares at Karen, who meets his eyes square on. I can teach you, she says. It's yours, too. She hesitates. And, if it's okay with you, I can teach Sasuke and Sakura and our senseis, too. Naruto loves his cousin so much and can't imagine not having her and he wraps his arms around her and she squeezes back. Yes, he breathes. Yeah, we can all learn and it can be our secret code. Cause nobody else in Konoha can read it. Sakura grins, above them, and Karen probably already told her the idea. Sasuke looks very thoughtful, and Naruto's reminded of his question. Of village versus team. If they had a secret language that no one else in the village could read, what does that mean for Sasuke? We need to have a team meeting, Sasuke says. Soon. Tonight, maybe. Sakura shrugs. There's a hot springs a quick run from here, she says. Yamato-sensei said we could go and stay the night there if we wanted when you guys got back, and check out the temple more in the morning. We could talk there. Sasuke frowns. Are there private baths? Karen nods. Yeah. I asked. She quiets, and oh. She probably didn't want people to see her bites and so Naruto grabs her and squeezes her again. That works, Sasuke says, pushing himself to his feet, and then helps Karen escape from Naruto's grip which makes him pout because he does like to hug his cousin. I've got some important stuff to tell you. I do, too, Sakura nods. Naruto pushes himself up, carefully tucking the piece of paper in a jacket pocket. Well, I don't, he says. I had a lot of secrets but I told you guys everything I can think of. He grins at Karen, expecting her to agree, but she looks thoughtful. I've got something too, maybe, she says, and his eyebrows shoot up. Hey, what? Naruto's not stupid enough to ask her right now, since they're literally about to go talk about it, so he stretches instead, leaning back and folding his arms behind his head. Kinda sucks. Everyone's got something but me. Sakura rolls her eyes. Your secrets were probably bigger than all of ours put together, oh my god. Karen snickers a little at that, and Naruto beams, always pleased at getting to hear her laugh, and he glances over at Sasuke, expecting him to join in. His best friend looks thoughtful, though, staring past them at Yamato-sensei walking their way, and he doesn't laugh. Something uneasy curls in Naruto's stomach. He doesn't think this'll be a fun talk. Chapter 62, Secrets of the Uzumaki, Team Meeting. Yamato-sensei draws Naruto aside to talk for a moment when he comes over, speaking quietly while the rest of them attempt to tune them out and give the two some sort of privacy, but Sasuke can see some tension seeping out of Naruto's shoulders, whatever Yamato-sensei is saying. Good. Seeing Naruto cry like that, wasn't. Ugh, his shirt is gross now. Yukimai waits by him and his teammates, though, and she gives him a smile. Sasuke's uneasy around her. He doesn't know what to do with civilians, and she's Yamato-sensei's sister and it's weird. It's very weird. I'm glad he looks better, she says, and she's clearly trying to be quiet, but the Genin know Naruto and Yamato-sensei can hear every word and kinda wince. Even Karen knows that. Wait, no, he shouldn't say even Karen anymore. She's getting better. Even if she's lagging behind, she's getting there. He really needs to teach her Konoha sign. He doesn't want to use civilian sign on missions, that's just asking for trouble. Yeah, Sasuke murmurs, trying to shut down the conversation. I didn't think seeing this would have made him upset, or I wouldn't have shown him, she continues, and oh god, do civilians not ever know when to shut up. He's getting antsy. Sakura reaches over and grips his wrist, and that's grounding, but it doesn't help that he just wants to twitch out of his skin and get away. He doesn't like her. I know, if my clan. That's when she finally falters, lapsing into silence and growing pensive, and that's funny because Sasuke could have actually listened to her finish that. Her clan. Yamato-sensei has a clan. Miss Yukimai, Karen pipes up cautiously, curious. What dash? Yamato-sensei flickers right behind his sister, terrifying, and they all shut up. He relaxes and claps his hands, Naruto looking up in befuddlement next to him. To the hot springs, he says. I think we can all use them. This mission is basically vacation. A very emotional vacation with crying and secrets and hugs, but Sasuke is starting to think that's all a rather unfortunate component of his team. If not hugs, there's a lot of hand-holding. He thinks if his academy self saw him doing these things, being like this, he would be upset. Sasuke is 13 years old, though, an adult in a genin, and he doesn't want to stop. Yamato-sensei carries his sister, and it means they go much faster. To civilians, there's no way the hot springs and its accompanying inn would be anywhere near close enough to the temple to stay at. For shinobi on a mission, they could certainly get there, but it wouldn't be worth the time and the energy. Team 7 is not going to be doing any fighting, is not under any obligations, and they run, easily, flitting from tree to tree. Karen and Naruto talk, a little, not wanting to be loud so trying to be as in sync as possible, but Sasuke's content to just breathe for a moment and think. The team, I guess, Naruto had said, and it's relieving, honestly. He doesn't know how everyone's going to react to what he has to say, because something this entrenched in the foundations of Konoha is, it's horrifying. They had gotten just a tiny little taste of it, when his mind skitters away from the sword, the senbon in the wall, how he can scarcely feel safe in his compound anymore, and swallows sharply, almost missing the next branch. Sakura glances at him, eyes wide, but he shakes his head. She still slows down a little, almost next to him, just a heartbeat ahead, and it's a little soothing. His team had gotten just a fragment of what Kabuto hinted at, but now there's more. There's doctored papers that don't add up, there's at least one missing child, and he can't help but wonder if even Itaki is involved in it, somehow. He was always a prodigy. Was it all innate? Is that what those words had meant? Sasuke doesn't say a word, though, not until after they've gotten to the inn, and Yamato-sensei goes to get them rooms. The rest of his team shares a glance that he doesn't partake in, exhausted both from handling Naruto's emotions earlier and now his own racing thoughts, and Karen opts for holding his hand this time. Sakura holds Naruto's and Naruto's hand threads into his, and they stand there together, patiently waiting for their teacher and breathing in unison. It's a weakness, being too dependent on his team. But if he didn't depend on them, at this point, he would have his legs cut out from underneath him, and that's something he's still struggling with, still trying to deal with. Yamato-sensei returns, a faint not quite smile on his face. 2 rooms, he says. And 2 private baths. There's not many people here. 1 for each gender. Tension sweeps across every single one of the genin instantaneously. Sakura folds in on herself, one hand swinging across to grab her elbow tightly, holding herself together. Naruto lets go of his teammate's hands, folding his arms across his chest, tight and hard and painful. Karin's gaze immediately skitters to Yokomai and she squeezes Sasuke's hand tight, scrunching herself inwards as if to hide skin that she's not showing. Sasuke's now free hand grabs at his neck, fingernails sinking in and leaving little crescent moons, eyes flying wide and breathing coming short and. Yamato-sensei pauses. Perhaps not, he says softly, the emotion on his face unreadable. Surprised? Not? It is difficult to determine, and Sasuke doesn't try. One for the genin, he tries instead, and Yokomai and I will take the other. They relax, unfolding slowly, and Yokomai stares at them with confused eyes, but there's nothing about this that Sasuke wants to explain to her. Yeah, Sakura says quietly. Please. He nods, and that's that. Do you want your privacy? Sasuke's the one to speak. Yes. Yamato-sensei eyes him, unreadable, but nods. Sasuke's surprised he's giving them even that, but there's quite a few things that he doesn't understand about Yamato-sensei, and that doesn't mean he isn't lying. Then I won't listen in. I'll set up some traps, so don't go anywhere other than the pool. They all nod, they all accept it, and that's when they part ways. It's when they're each done changing in a corner and turn around with their towels up to their armpits that they get their first secret of the night. Sakura has a scar running down her arm, lightning-like, and it peeks over the top of her towel, curling on her collarbones. It was hidden, before, by her shirt and gloves and the mesh underneath, and Naruto sputters something unintelligible out. It takes her a second to realize what they're staring at, and then she gives them a sad smile. Yeah, she says. It kinda stuck. She licks her palm and wipes at her face and neck, and the scar continues, climbing up her neck and cheek and stopping right below her eye. It's a lot. Sasuke doesn't know what to say, but Karin does, he guesses. Now we match, she says. Sakura stares at her with such surprise. Karin has bite mark impressions, scarred and permanent, running down both arms and legs, curling along her collarbones. Both girls have scars, Sasuke glances at Naruto. Both boys have seals. Yeah, Sakura says softly, relaxing just a little. I guess so. They don't talk again until they're in the hot springs, warm and content and sagging down until just their upper faces are above the water. Naruto burbles and Sasuke kicks him and he yelps, splashing. Sasuke dodges and it hits Karin full on in the face and for 5 minutes. For 5 glorious minutes, all 4 of them attempt to drown each other. There's no Konoha, no Atake, no Kabuto, no scars, no seals, no clans, no nothing hanging over their head, just 4 not children, cause they're not children, but 4 genin attempting to dunk each other and splash each other and generally cause mayhem. It's needed, it's so needed, and when they give way because they're so tired, everyone has a smile, even Sasuke, and he feels so much better. Just. It's nice. Sakura breaks the calm, first. Okay, she says. My scar was one thing I had to tell you, but I have more. She's like a teacher, almost, like Iruka-sensei, just going through her list of things to tell them. My chakra control isn't as great anymore, she tells them. The lightning burned dash, she glances at Naruto, and amends whatever she was about to say, probably to something more basic language. It burned through all my chakra paths, and my chakras, different, now. Sasuke frowns. How? She shrugs. No idea. It feels different. Kind of strange. But I'm apparently one of the few people ever to burn through their entire chakra system with self-produced lightning, so they don't really have any basis to go on. I'm figuring it out. That, actually makes a lot of sense. It's most likely not a common situation. Finally, Sakura bites her lip. She scrunches up her face a little bit, breathes in, breathes out, leans back against the wall behind her. My parents, they're probably getting a divorce. Everyone's silent, and Sakura keeps going, keeps babbling. They're fighting a lot now and tears well up in her eyes but she keeps going. I know, some of it is because of me being a shinobi. Dad wants me to quit. I'm not she just keeps going and going. I'm super lucky to have them, and if they're not happy together they don't have to stay together, it's hard, and they both love me and I love them and dash. Naruto hugs her. He's sitting the closest to her and he scoots the rest of the way over and hugs her, and Karen's on her other side and scoots over to put a hand on her shoulder, and Sasuke floats his way across the pool just to physically be there, and Sakura cries into her teammates for a few minutes. When she's done, she apologizes. Sorry. I still have a good home and I know it's not my fault and I love them, it's just. Sakura hunches, a little bit hard. It's okay, Sasuke says, and he thinks everyone's surprised by that, but it's true, honestly. He swallows, and he tries not to think of his parents and their marriage and everything that he couldn't pick up on then but can now, after so long obsessing over what scattered memories he could keep. He tries to say more but can't, and just gives a little shrug, and she gives him a small smile. Thanks, Sasuke, she says, and he nods, and instead of drifting back to his spot, takes a seat next to Naruto. Maybe they all look ridiculous, crowded together in one part of the pool, but they don't care. I'll go next. Sasuke tries, managing to get his words out, since apparently they're just kinda taking turns. He wants to get it over with, and stark relief flickers across Karen's face at that. Okay, she definitely doesn't want to share. They all stare at him, though, turning their attention as Sakura wipes at her eyes, and Sasuke's really glad they're organized enough, coherent enough to just take turns. They're adults. Yeah. They should be able to. I got Kabuto's papers, he says, and Naruto's inhale next to him is so sharp it could cut glass. I can't tell you how. But they're normal. Karen licks her lips. And that's bad, she asks quietly. Kabuto said that he was an experiment in Konoha, he says. But there's nothing in his file that would show that, no time missing, no nothing. And when I told Kakashi-sensei about on the wall, he knew there were people we couldn't trust in Konoha, right away, and the fact that there are people in Konoha we can't trust, and Ino's cousin Fu is missing, and I bet even more are, and dash. He's hyperventilating, a little, the words tumbling out all at once, and Naruto gently bumps his shoulder with his own and takes Sasuke's wrist, and he breathes, slowly. Surely. Right now. Kakashi-sensei said that people were rooting out the problem. He remembers the exact phrasing, because it was very, very deliberate. But for this much to happen, and be so covered, then it has to be someone high up. Someone important. An advisor, or a council person, or someone linked to the daimyo. We have to tell Kakashi-sensei, Sakura says immediately. Does he know all that? I don't know, Sasuke says. I think so. If he doesn't want to accuse. He doesn't want to say anything. But he shifts his hand, so now he's gripping Naruto's hand back and squeezes. Sakura and Naruto are both intent. Karen is oddly quiet. If Kakashi-sensei knew that fast, it meant he already knew about the group in Konoha. The ones we can't trust. Words. Words, 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 breathe in, breathe out. There's no way he didn't tell the Hokage. So the Sandaime must have already known. There's a dawning horror creeping over everyone's faces. He didn't do anything, Naruto whispers, a visceral hurt spreading over his face. Or he couldn't, Sakura says quietly, and Naruto snaps his head around to stare at her. He's the Hokage. How couldn't he? Sakura weighs her words, very carefully. If they're very powerful, whoever they are. Maybe they were powerful enough to kill him and take over, if he did something big to try to stop them, so he thought leaving them alone was better. So they could take people? And hurt people. Naruto is barely managing to keep it down to a whisper yell, but he manages by the skin of his teeth. That's no Hokage should do that. Her face crumples. I don't know, Naruto, it doesn't dash, she sucks in a breath, close to tears. I don't know, it doesn't make sense, I'm just trying to think of something. Sasuke shakes his head. Sakura, he says. Maybe dash. Sasuke. Karen finally speaks up. That single word is heavy, cutting through their whispers. Her forehead is furrowed, When they all look over, and he can see her wringing her hands together in her lap under the word, turning them over and over each other. I think my thing is related to yours, she says. But I don't think you are going to like it. That doesn't particularly surprise Sasuke. He hasn't liked any of the secrets they've been sharing. What, he demands, because tiptoeing around it won't make it any better, won't make it come any faster. She hesitates a moment longer. Sasuke, she says quietly. When your family died. It's a gut punch, it's a pain, and he shudders and Naruto's hand is wrapped around his so tight his fingers might break, and Sasuke might break them right back. Was Itachi the only one who killed them? What the fuck kind of question was that? He struggles for a verbal response that isn't just a garble of pain and the anger that's starting to curl and fester inside of him because what's the point here, Karen? So he settles for a jerky nod and she stares at him and then stares at his reflection in the water. I gotta ask, because... She swallows. It's hard for her to talk about it, and any other time he would be patient, but he can't do this, he can't handle this dragging on. Get on with it, get on with it, get on with it. When he put me in his genjutsu, it was of your family, yeah? On that day. She doesn't look for confirmation. Sasuke trembles. Sasuke, in the genjutsu. Itachi wasn't the only one there. Chapter 63, Secrets of the Uzumaki, Brothers and Lost Clans. He stops breathing. His vision flickers black and he stops breathing. Itachi wasn't the Leon Ethir, Itachi wasn't the Leon Ethir, Itachi wasn't the Leon Ethir. Something hits his cheek, a startling snap of quick pain, and he sucks in air, drinks it in like he's dying, and his team's worried faces swim into view. Naruto in the middle and the other on either side, and they stare at him in fear, and he shakes. Naruto's gripping his shoulders hard and he shoves him, scooting away to grip his own shoulders, nails sinking in as he struggles to process, struggles to breathe. Breathe. The world is shattering because that he can't even begin to process that and what it means, and his team hovers, and he has enough clarity to tell they're worried, to know that they're freaking out, but it feels like they're pressing in on him, closing in, and the heat from the springs is rising up, and he can't. He can't deal with this, he can't process this, he can't handle this, he can't. He can't, and Sasuke lurches to his feet, shoving past one of them and scrambles forward, up the seat and out of the tub, and he turns and their faces swim in front of him. Oh. Tears. Sasuke's on the verge of hysterical, if not hysterical already, and he takes a step back, and when one of them, Sakura, steps forward, he shakes his head, jerks it. Don't, he whispers, and they stop. Stay. I need dash. He doesn't know what he needs, but he can't stay in this pool any longer, and he turns and flees. He makes it to the room and he slams the sliding door shut behind him, and he drops to his knees and buries his face in the floor, and he yells. Sasuke beats the floor with his fists like he's 3 years old and yells into them, and he knows his teammates can probably hear him out there, but he doesn't care, he doesn't care. He's so tired of everything being turned on him, of everything being a secret. It was fun, at first, to imagine a little conspiracy, but there are so many secrets and he feels like there's nothing he can trust, and it's terrifying. He's so sick of being scared. There's no one he can turn to. He wants Kakashi-sensei, but he doesn't want the Kakashi-sensei in Konoha, he wants Kakashi-sensei back when he thought the worst thing would be his teacher passing out on a mission. Or Sakura being too annoying, or Naruto being too much of a loser, and when he could go home to his clan compound and feel nothing and who cared about his team, they would just drag him down anyway and would be something for Itachi to use against him, so who cares about his teammates? He doesn't want that lonely existence anymore, can't imagine it, but he longs for its stability so badly. To do D-ranks every day and have minimal training and wait for hours for Kakashi-sensei at the bridge, practice once he's home, and then eat a simple dinner and go to sleep. Yes, he had to get stronger, but that was it. Sasuke felt safe then, and he doesn't think he's felt safe in months now, and he's so scared, all the time, and he doesn't want that anymore. He yells, again, banging on the floor and then breaking down into sobs, and the door slides open. It's the one in front, not behind, and he looks up into the terrified eyes of Yukimai. Sasuke, she exclaims, rushing to him and kneeling beside him. She's wearing a robe, he notes in some far corner of his mind, already finished with her soak. Are you okay? Do you need me to get Tenzo? What's wrong dash? She's stammering like the civilian she is when she stops abruptly, and he follows her wide-eyed gaze to the seal in the crook of his neck. You have, his seal, she says softly, and he snaps into focus. You know what that is, he rasps, seizing onto something, anything. Orochimaru and the seal is terrifying, too, but the man who gave him that is dead, so it's a far lesser concern than everything that was said in the hot springs. Yukamai nods, and she reaches up, unclasping her choker and then turning around, and there, on the back of her neck, is a seal. It's not the exact same as his, not identical, but it looks familiar enough, a similar pattern that he's not surprised she was able to recognize his. Sasuke stares, uncomprehending. She's a civilian, and Yamato-sensei's sister, what? She turns back, and Sasuke forces himself up into a sitting position, scrubbing roughly at his eyes and trying not to cry more. Seize on this. Seize on this. Why? Yukamai looks to the side, at something that's not there, relaxing just a little. My clan, she begins, haltingly. The Iberi clan. We can turn into smoke, but wind can blow us into nothing. So, for years, we lived underground, and Orochimaru told us he would help us stabilize our forms. The seals did help, but not all the way, and he was really trying to get our ability. She closes her eyes. He killed all of them. All the rest of my clan, I'm the last one. He blinks twice, rapidly, getting rid of the last of his tears. But, what about Yamato-sensei? She shakes her head and reopens her eyes, giving him a tiny smile. He's not my brother by blood. He and Kakashi saved me. They drove off Orochimaru and Tenzo helped me stabilize my Kekkei Genkai, so now I travel the world. She's right. I was in the cave too long. There's too much to see. Sasuke processes that. His breathing is slower, his heartbeat is settled, and focusing on this is good, better. It's something completely different, and he can't believe that Yukamai had to deal with that. He understands it all too well. After a few moments of quiet, she speaks again. Sasuke, why were you crying? And yelling? Immediately, he jerks his head. I don't. He can barely speak, even now, and she accepts it. Okay, she says, and she reaches out for him but jerks back before he can even flinch, hopefully recognizing that he doesn't want to be touched. I sent Tenzo to get some water, for tea. Do you want to join us? Yamato-sensei can't question Sasuke, if he was going to, if Yukamai's right there. For all he had been disparaging her earlier, she's a welcome relief right now, a civilian that won't push too hard. He nods. Just, let me change. The moment she's out, he does, slipping out his sleeping t-shirt and shorts, and heads over. His head feels thick, heavy, eyes swollen, and aching, but Yamato-sensei doesn't say anything when he sees Sasuke, simply pressing a warm mug of tea into his hands. He sits and sips, listening to Yukamai and Yamato-sensei's quiet conversation about nothing at all. He's updating her on various people in the village. When he's done, he sets the mug on the table and doesn't leave. He just lets it wash over him instead, and it's okay, he guesses. Just a little okay. Naruto waits until there's no more yelling. When Sasuke's finally quiet, though it sends his stomach into knots, twisting and turning, to turn back to the other two. Their eyes are wide and fearful, and Naruto thinks he hasn't been this frightened for his teammates since that time in the forest, when he had almost killed that genin. We need a plan, he says, and Karen's eyes skitter past him to the closed door. But Sasuke. There's no set leader among the four of them. At first, it felt like Sasuke, but it feels much more even nowadays, so Naruto feels confident in shaking his head. That scared him, he says softly, and they all sort of look at each other for a moment. It's an understatement, the roiling panic that went through him, and Itachi is something that Naruto doesn't think he can even begin to touch, begin to help with. Sasuke helps him with stuff and he helps Sasuke with stuff, and same goes for every single member of their team, but he doesn't know if anyone can help him with the Itachi stuff. If there's really people in Konoha who can take people, and the Hokage can't do anything about it, or won't, Sakura trails off. We need to figure it out. Sasuke said that Kakashi-sensei was going to take care of some, but this doesn't sound like something that you can fix in a few days. Karen nods slowly. Or why wouldn't the other Hokage have done it? The thought sends bitterness curling through him. He doesn't, he had loved the old man. But more and more. Why did he not do anything about this? Why couldn't he know about the Uzumakis? Why couldn't he know about his parents? Why? Do you think, all this is why I never learned about the Uzumakis? By the startled look on the two girls' faces, they hadn't thought of it. Sakura frowns immediately, chewing on her lip and thinking. It's possible. If there's something to cover up. Karen, do you know anything? Karen shakes her head. The Uzumaki clan came from Uzushio, and it was destroyed when my mom was really little, so she doesn't remember anything. Sakura nods slowly. Who did it? I don't know, Karen says, startled. Mom didn't tell me when I was little, and then she died, so. Sakura continues to be quiet, thinking, and Naruto reaches over to tap her shoulder. Oh. Right, I was just thinking. If it is about Uzushio, too, then whoever behind this must be older, or it's handed down. One of the people in the genjutsu was an old man, Karen whispers. Naruto frowns. 1. She nods. There were 2. An old man, watching, and someone in a mask, who was desh. She flinches. He was killing, too. There's no way that actually happened, Sakura says. And even if it did, he's supposed to be a genius, even if he's crazy. So he did that on purpose. Sakura's so smart, but sometimes Naruto's really glad his mind doesn't make the same connections that hers does. What does that mean? Well, she sighs. Either he's awful and they're both perfectly good people that he wants us to mistrust, or, Sakura bites her lip. It's bleeding, now, but she doesn't seem to care, worry creasing lines into her forehead. Or we don't know everything we should, and he's trying to tell us something. She shakes her head. First, we need to identify who they are. Then we can go from there. We can look in the bingo books, Naruto suggests. The library has old ones. Don't know about the masked guy, but maybe you can find the old guy in one. Sakura blinks at him in surprise and he shrugs, sheepish. I think they probably take stuff out of them, 'cause I never saw one with my dad, or my mom, but we can try. Karen gives him a tiny smile. Yeah, I'll look. Sakura nods again. Yeah. I kind of made friends with Kabuto's sensei's teammate. So I guess I'll keep talking to him, and see if I can find more stuff out there, and I'll talk to Ino. I wrote a letter to some Uzumaki in AIM, Naruto says. So I guess I'll wait for them to send me a letter back. And I want to talk to Hinata and Niji about the evil Hyuga stuff, so I can do that, too. So we've all got something, Karen says, and she straightens up a little. She looks like she feels better with something to do, something to take care of. And we'll tell Sasuke when he's better. Sakura nods. Yeah, she agrees. When he's better. When they return to the room, Sasuke's not there. Naruto's kinda worried but not super worried yet, and he changes quickly to head over and knock on the next door's frame. Yamato-sensei opens it. Is Sasuke in here? Yes, Yamato-sensei says, and he steps aside so that Naruto can look in. Sasuke's asleep, passed out in the corner with a blanket thrown over top of him, and Naruto relaxes a little bit. It hadn't felt right, letting him run in and scream like that, but his eyes, and the way he tried so hard to get away. It would have felt even worse if he trapped him or forced him. They can talk about it later. It's okay. Is he okay sleeping in there? Naruto asks, trying to be as quiet as possible. Yamato-sensei nods. Of course. Are you 3 heading to bed? I think so. Night, sensei. Night, Naruto. Once he's brushed his teeth and let his teammates know that Sasuke's okay, or at least asleep and alive and not missing, maybe not okay, Naruto starts his new bedtime ritual. He's been doing it for just a little bit now. He reaches into his bag and pulls out a picture of his mom and dad. Not an original, he made copies for missions. His parents smile at the camera. Mom's super pregnant, really big, and both his parents have their hands on her stomach. They look so happy. So excited. It's the only picture he's got of the three of them. Night, he whispers at the picture, before he tucks it away. Night, he tells his teammates, a little bit louder, and he settles to sleep. And hopefully, tomorrow will be a better day. Probably can't get much worse. Chapter 64, Secrets of the Uzumaki, Scrolls and Seals. When he wakes the next morning, when he's fully conscious but has not yet sought out his team, has not yet decided what he can even say, Yamato-sensei puts a hand on his shoulder. Sasuke flinches, sharp, involuntary, and his teacher pulls away. Sasuke, he speaks, quiet. His sister still sleeps. What happened last night? Nothing, he bites out, bitter and hard, and he curls away from him. He trusts Yamato-sensei, he does. But he doesn't know what he can say to him, what would put him in danger. He's not Kakashi-sensei. And Sasuke can't even begin to try to speak of it. Yamato-sensei isn't foolish, doesn't buy it for a single moment, but he nods. He looks naked, wearing simple sleep clothes, nothing adorning his face. It's strange. If you are unable to keep going, we can return this morning. Instead of going to the temple? Sasuke isn't sure going back to Konoha will help anything, and so he gives a simple shrug. Naruto and Karen, he says, their names warm on his tongue. They deserve to see it. His teacher accepts it, and asks no further. Sasuke doesn't talk to them in the morning. Still, Sakura is awake first, out of the three, and wanders over to the other room to attempt it, returning only with a shake of the head, so they leave him be for now. He looks like a ghost, quiet and pale, trailing behind Yamato-sensei and Yukimai without protest. Naruto doesn't like it. He doesn't like seeing Sasuke this way. He wants to go back to how it was before. Orochimaru had changed things, with his bite, but Kabuto had really tipped it all over the edge and there was always a kind of fear in Sasuke, now, and Naruto wishes he were strong enough that he could beat whatever it was and make it go away. But he's not. He's not strong enough to chase away Sasuke's fear, or stop Karen's nightmares, or the way his cousin never looks in the mirror, covers up every inch. He's not strong enough to stop the way that Sakura's hands shake, sometimes, or when she wants to say something and she bites her lip and goes quiet and he doesn't understand. He's not strong enough to bring Kakashi-sensei to his feet, to bring Enko back, to erase the way everything feels awful when the old man comes back. Naruto swallows it all back down and gives Sakura a smile and a thumbs up, instead, when she doesn't put on her makeup and lets her scar curl free up her face. He holds Karen's hand and squeezes it tight, glove and all, and he lets Sasuke figure out whatever he needs to figure out, cause he knows his teammate knows they'll be here whenever he's done. I have scrolls for you, Yamato-sensei says, passing them over when they hit the temple. Naruto takes his and scrunches up his face confused. What am I gonna do with this, he asks. Yamato-sensei doesn't look super happy with that question. What? That's a perfectly reasonable question to ask. But he answers anyway. They're storage scrolls, he says. Captain thought you might want to bring some things home. They're yours. His eyes are on Naruto, and maybe it's just because he was the one who asked the question, but he's looking at him, and Kakashi-sensei was the one who thought of it, and Naruto feels tears prickle at his eyes. Thank you, Kakashi-sensei, he thinks, because his teacher is really good sometimes even if he's not always, and Naruto can't think of having a different Jounin-sensei. He nods roughly and wipes at his eyes, and Karen unrolls hers. There's seals on it, he realizes, glancing over, her eyes shine as she traces them gently, and it makes him feel a little bit better. Come on, then, he says, once he's recovered, giving both Karen and Sakura a grin. Let's figure out what we're bringing. In the end, while it's really cool and a tangible reminder of everything he doesn't have, everything he's lost, the temple is a bit wasted on Naruto. It's ancient scrolls and the masks on the wall and none of it means anything to him. Karen rifles through the scrolls and the books, piling up ones she's sure she wants to take and ones she's not so sure about. Occasionally, she asks his opinion, but since he's not gonna be able to read them for a while anyways, he just really lets her choose. She's picking stuff that he wants, anyways, cool jutsus and clan history, and that's what he really knows he wants. Instead, Naruto wanders off. It's not a big temple, in fact, it's more of a shrine than a temple, but it's interesting, kinda. He can see how the wood's different and stuff. Not just from Yamato-sensei fixing things, but how maybe it was originally a shrine, and they added. He wonders, did they come here after Uzushio was gone, maybe? How many people were here? Both of the rooms on either side of the mask room, the main room, are filled with scrolls, but when he goes down to the left, past it, there's a room that looks like it was for sleeping. There's a few scattered mats for sleeping, blankets that look faded and old and like they'll crumple if he touches them, but the room is bigger than them, and there was probably more. There's blood on one of the blankets, and Naruto wonders if they were attacked. He leans against the wall and closes his eyes, trying to picture it. A straggle of red hair, like Karen and Mom, grown ups and kids and babies and grandparents, running from whatever killed most of them, running from their city into the night. Coming here, cause they knew it was here, and, building on. Expanding? But it's so close to Konoha. Why not keep going? There's so much he doesn't understand, so many pieces that he needs to find if he wants to put it all together. Konoha was friends with Uzushio, yeah? With the Uzumakis? It's why he sees the symbol on the jackets, even when he didn't know what it meant. So why didn't more Uzumaki come to Konoha? Why was it just his mom? Why are there Uzumaki in places like AIM, and probably more? Why did they scatter? Why didn't they stay together? Was all of Uzushio one clan, or were there more? Are there more people whose parents are from Uzushio that live in Konoha? It's so many questions, and Naruto's not much of a thinker, especially when he doesn't have answers, so he opens his eyes to focus on something else. There's not much to focus on here. He doesn't want to touch the blankets or mats, especially if it'll make them fall apart, so he takes a few steps in and glances around at the walls. There's nothing, no decorations, but... Wait, what's that? Naruto squints, and there's seals on the door frame. He doesn't know them, which he guesses makes sense cause he doesn't really know any seals, and he traces over them with light fingers. They're hard to see. If he wasn't looking so close, he'd probably never spot them. Are there? He ends up scanning the room, searching every inch of wood, and he finds more. There's some in various spots along the wall, two marking where maybe there was gonna be another door frame on the other side, and a few on the floor. Naruto very carefully scoots one of the mats out of the way, and there's 4 on the floor. A little square, and these ones are so brown they're almost invisible, but Naruto's got a pretty good eyes and was looking for them, so he spots them. What do they mean? Naruto stands there for like a good solid 2 minutes trying to figure them out, before he realizes that there's no way he's just gonna magically know sealing, so he gives up for now and wanders back to join the rest of the group. Sakura's flipping through a book with interest. Sasuke stands in the corner, leaning against the wall, and surprisingly enough, Yokomae is leaning next to him, talking quietly. Naruto doesn't feel like eavesdropping, so he looks over, and Yamato-sensei is standing over Karen, who sits cross-legged on the floor with a bunch of books and scrolls piled up. Naruto, she greets, and she gives him a grin. It's good to see her grin like that, look so happy, even if it stings a little. Yamato-sensei was right, it is helping her, and Naruto returns the smile. Are there any more you want to grab? I'm sealing them up. He shakes his head. Nah, I can't read em. You got a lot of cool jutsus and history and stuff, yeah. She nods. There's not a lot of history, but I got what I could, and there's lots of jutsus. Yamato-sensei eyes them both, sharp. No trying any without supervision, he says. Yes, sensei, they chorus together and then snicker, and that makes even Sasuke look over at them. Maybe the corners of his mouth are turned up just a little, maybe Naruto's imagining it, but even the easy acknowledgement makes that worry knot in his chest loosen, just a little bit. Karen, Naruto, says Sakura suddenly, eyes intent on the book in her hands. Can I keep this one? Naruto moseys over to stand on his toes to peek over her shoulder. Why? Is she still the tallest? And it's a book of maps, it looks like. That actually makes a lot of sense given who Sakura is. Sure, he says easily, cause he definitely wasn't gonna read that. Karen squints at the title on the outside, written in the funky secret Uzumaki language, and nods. Sure, Sakura. Is it cool? Sakura lights up. Yes, it is. See, if you look here she drops to her knees next to Karen to show her something, and that's when Naruto tunes her out cause he really doesn't care about any old maps. Instead, he wanders over to the other side of the temple shrine building to see if there's any other seals. It's a little sleeping area, same as before. All of these blankets are stained with blood, and Naruto feels queasy. It's old, it's all old blood, but it's not great to be in here, and yeah, he really doesn't get how Sasuke goes back to his compound every single night. He scours this room quickly for seals, but aside from identical ones on the door frame, there's nothing interesting here. The other room was cooler. And, less bloody. Naruto returns and watches Karen bite her thumb, carefully streaking blood across the seals, and watches the first pile of books disappear in a puff of smoke. She grins, pleased, and moves on to the second scroll, doing the same. It's strange to see her bite herself. But she took off her glove with no hesitation, even though Yukimai's in the same room, and Naruto just. He really loves his cousin. He wants her to be happy forever and doesn't know what he'd do without her now that he's got her. Hey, Karen, he says, now that she's done. There's some cool seals in one of the rooms if you wanna look. That catches everyone's interest, and Karen's eyes glitter. He's pretty sure she wants to learn sealing, really pretty sure, and if she says she's gonna, then Naruto thinks that's cool of her. He kinda wants to, too, but he doesn't want to be his dad all over again, not just a copy, so it's a big ol mixed bag. Naruto leads the way proudly and points them all out, with even Sasuke and Yukimai following, and the room feels a little bit stuffy with all of them, but it's not awful. Do you know anything about seals, Yamato-sensei? He asks, and his teacher shakes his head. You could ask the Toad-Sunin, Sakura says. She's only briefly met the pervy sage, and that's probably why she's calm about him. He's supposed to be really good with seals. Karen and Naruto exchange glances because yeah, he is, but he's the pervy sage, but Yukimai speaks up with excitement. You can use my notebook, she says, taking off her back and rooting through it to grab a notebook and a pencil, flipping to a clean page and offering them to Naruto. He takes them, confused, and yeah, he doesn't even want to try copying those correctly, so Karen takes it from his hands instead. I'll copy them down to show him, she says, and Sakura gets another pencil from Yukimai and steals a piece of paper and goes to help. Makes sense. She's got pretty good writing, and there's quite a few. Naruto leans on the wall next to Sasuke, occasionally pointing out a seal when they don't know where it is, and sneaks glances over to his teammate. He's still quiet, still sort of staring out at nothing, but they do meet eyes once and he gives Sasuke a small smile, just so he knows he's here. Sasuke stares at him for a moment before he looks away and they don't meet eyes again. Done, Karen says, tracing the last one on the floor, and then she stands up to squint down at them. Naruto moves to stand next to her. I wonder what these are for, she says. The door ones, protection, maybe, she guesses. Sakura nods. They were probably going to add another door. I think the ones on the wall were for holding things, and lights. She bites her lip, staring down at the square. These ones. We'll ask the pervy sage, Karen says, and her using his name always makes Naruto grin. Yamato-sensei nods. Are we all done here? He asks, glancing between Naruto and Karen. I wanted to grab a mask, but then. I'm done, I think. There's nothing behind this, is there? Karen asks, and when Yamato-sensei shakes his head, she nods. Then I'm done. His eyes slide over to Naruto, and he nods too. I'm good, yeah, he says, and with that, they drift. Sasuke is the first to leave, escaping, Yukimai right behind him, then Sakura. Karen pauses at the door frame, squinting at the seals one more time, and Naruto stands in the square and thinks, just for a minute. He's not sure what they do, but Karen, using the storage scrolls. Him, summoning toads. Maybe? Hey, Karen, he says, squatting down. She looks back. I'm gonna try something. He bites his thumb and streaks it over one of the seals, real quick. It lights up. Naruto dash. Karen yells, face a mask of alarm, and she cuts off, sound vanishing even as her mouth works as his vision goes black and he falls into nothing. Chapter 65, Secrets of the Uzumaki, Chamber of Three. Naruto lands on his side. It's a weird moment of dizzying confusion, cause like, didn't he fall feet first? But he lands on his side in the dirt and he blinks 3 times and then coughs, forcing himself up. Karen is laying next to him, equally stunned, and he takes the moment to glance around. They're in a cave? What? Cause that's what it sure as all get out looks like, from what Naruto can see. There's only a very faint light and Naruto squints at it. It's coming from the wall in front of them, and after a second, he recognizes the little glowing seals as the ones from the floor of the temple. Oh crap. They fell through? What? But Karen wasn't right by them and Yamato-sensei had also been in the room and... While Naruto's trying to grapple with what happened, Karen scrambles up, yanking off a glove with her teeth, dropping it and biting her thumb and smearing blood over one of the seals. Nothing happens. There's a desperate sheen to her face, in the faint orange lighting that almost makes her look eerie, otherworldly, and she tries again, going after all 4 seals and then she glances at him. Naruto. Hurry, you try. What's the rush? He wants to ask, cause he doesn't get it, and then he realizes the seals are starting to dim. The light's fading and he moves as fast as he can and bites his thumb again and... The really sucky issue is that cause of the stupid fox and his stupid healing he has to keep biting his thumb, which isn't a great time, but he smears blood over all of them and nothing happens and he gets one more glimpse of fear in Karen's eyes before the lights completely fade. "En Naruto," she calls quietly, voice cracking. He gropes in the darkness and finds her shoulder. "Right here, Karen," he says, and then he thinks cause of what do they do? Wait. Hang on a sec, he chirps cause yes he knows what jutsu to use, and he focuses. He's not as good as Sasuke with this one but he's got it, he thinks, even if he has to be careful. "Close your eyes," he tells his cousin, and trusts her to do so before he focuses on his palm. It's like the Rasengan but not, a completely different ball of chakra in his hand. He bites his lip and he focuses and slowly, a ball of light sparks into being over his palm. "Yes," he crows, and Karen opens her eyes. She looks so relieved and he's pretty sure he looks exactly the same. "Where did you learn that?" she asks, which makes sense cause she's never seen it before. "Yamato-sensei taught me and Sasuke when we went to go get Granny Tsunade," he tells her. "You'll have to teach me," she says, and he's nodding when she smacks him over the head. "You're an idiot," Karen yells and Naruto stares at his cousin in shock. Karen has never done that. Ever. He didn't even know his cousin could yell like that. She's not finished and she smacks him over the head again. "It doesn't hurt, it's just incredibly strange. You don't activate seals you don't know bullshit about." She's yelling and maybe they shouldn't cause there might be other people here but Naruto's eyes are wide and he can't say nothing. "You had no idea what they would do and now we're stuck here and that was so stupid, what the hell dash." Her voice cracks and he realizes she's in tears. She wipes at them roughly and then shrinks back to how she usually is, more reserved and shyer and quiet and sorry. "I didn't mean to yell." Karen looks unhappy and regretful and like she really messed up, in this unnatural yellow light, and Naruto shakes his head cause if someone messed up, it was him. "You're right," he admits. "I'm sorry. You can yell at me if you want." She looks at him, eyes wider than normal, and then shakes her head. "Got it out of my system," she says, letting out a shuddering exhale, but she looks better. Naruto wonders if Karen's maybe more like Sakura than Hinata and now it's all starting to come out, and finds that thought both pretty cool and also really frightening. Cause Sakura and Ino are kinda scary and if Karen ends up being kinda scary then the only girl his age Naruto knows that's not scary is Hinata, who's weird but cool. He guesses Neji's teammate isn't scary? Karen's kinda friends with her? But Naruto doesn't even remember her name. "Okay," he says, instead. "Sorry." I know I shouldn't have. He looks around. The light faintly illuminates, but there's not really much to see. It's just an empty, no, not a cave, a tunnel. There's more. I think, Karen says, uncertain. This might be like an escape route. Huh, why? Really, he asks. She nods. Yamato-sensei didn't come with us, and he was in the room, too. Yeah, Naruto had been wondering about that, too. Since we're both Uzumaki, it's probably to help Uzumaki escape. That's, There wasn't one in the other room, Naruto says. And, he swallows, and he doesn't really want to think about it. There was a lot more blood. Karen looks back at him, solemn, and neither of them really want to think about it, but they kinda have to since they're stuck in here. They weren't done, she says. They must have escaped Uzushio and come here, and... It was the same thoughts that Naruto was having, and he nods. It's not a fun picture. Uzushio refugees, a mass of red, hiding here and building it up, and getting attacked anyway, before they're done, and some dying, and... So somebody must have come here, then. It's a bolstering thought, and he grabs Karen's hand with his free one. Let's go. Karen hesitates, glancing back at where the now dark seals sit on the wall. Yamato-sensei. Naruto shrugs. I think if he can come through, he already woulda. There's only one way to go, yeah. After a moment, she nods and squeezes his hand. Yeah, she says, and they venture forth into the darkness. There's not really much to see, at first. It's just cave. Tunnels, he guesses. They're quiet, just holding onto each other and occasionally glancing, as if to make sure the other is okay in the dim light of the ball. It flickers and goes out at one point when Naruto trips over a rock, and there's definitely a moment of panic before he manages to get it to light up again. He's super careful to not put too much chakra in. He totally blinded Sasuke that one time and it would super suck to have that happen here. And then they hit a dead end. For a split second, Naruto can feel his heart sink. He did this, he got them stuck in the tunnels that lead to who knows where, and maybe once upon a time they were an escape route, but maybe the other Uzumakis shut them behind them and... Naruto, look, Karen breathes. There's seals. His eyes take a second to focus, and he sees them. If they hadn't had their little ball of light, they'd be obvious. There's 4 seals on each side, 3 total, 1 set straight ahead and 2 on either wall. In a square, just like the ones before, and Karen drops Naruto's hands to scramble for papers in her pack. Here, she says, holding up the carefully copied square from earlier, and they squint at it and then squint at the ones on the walls. 3 of the 4 seals are the same, in each square, but the one in the lower left is different. Naruto has no idea what the brush strokes mean, what each one stands for. It's not actual written word, seals are some made-up language stuff he doesn't know, but he has a guess. I bet it's where, he says, jabbing at the lower left seal on the paper with his finger. They all go different spots. Karen blinks at the paper and blinks up at him. I think so, too, she says, and Naruto's usually bad at written stuff, so he grins at her, a warmth rising in his chest before he considers the walls. So which one? They don't really have an answer. There's no clear indication, nothing that sticks out over either, and maybe it turns out only one of them will work, but if they all work... Karen points at the one on the left. That one, she says. Why, asks Naruto, and she shrugs. We have to pick one, right? Fair enough. None of them even voices the option of possibly sending one of them through to test it. No one's leaving anyone behind, here, in this strange cave of Uzumaki secrets, and Karen grabs Naruto's hand again and uses her other to smear blood across one of the 4 seals. They all light up even more, shining bright and white, and the 2 glance at each other and instead of falling, step through the wall. It takes a moment for their eyes to adjust, and when they do, Naruto thinks it's empty. It's a cave, no tunnels, no nothing, just a cave. He doesn't understand. Karen looks just as confused, but her gaze hardens. There's got to be something in here, she says. Look. He follows her gaze, and there's 2 more seals on either side of the square behind him. Those are the same as the ones on the doorways, in the temple. For protection. That means. There's something here worth protecting. It's an exciting thought, even if this isn't the way out. They search. There's nothing that they can see. Nothing scratched into the walls, nothing that seems to indicate there's anything here but an empty cave, and Naruto scratches the back of his head and thinks. Karen, he says, and she meets his gaze. I'm gonna put out the light, 'kay? Maybe we can see it. She's just as curious as he is, just as keen to yank onto the slightest thing that indicates Uzumaki, and she nods without a moment of hesitation. They want to know. Naruto understands Sasuke's need for solving, understands his need to know, because he wants to know so badly, too. He puts out the light. Their eyes adjust, because there is something to light the cave. There's a faint blue light, coming from the floor along one wall, and they both scramble towards it, wiping at the dirt with their hands and clearing it out of the way, and there's a small seal there, just a single one, glowing. Karen's eyes widen in the dimness. It's a storage seal, she says softly, and she drags her bloody thumb across it. A small puff of smoke, and then there's a chest sitting before them. Small. Unassuming. There's no lock on it, but when Karen tries to open it, it doesn't budge. Wait, Naruto says, pointing in the dim light of the blue seal. Look. There's two small seals on either side of the latch. She drags her thumb across one, and it lights up, green, but nothing happens. Karen goes for the second one to do the same, but while it does light up green, the other one winks into darkness. She frowns. At the same time, Naruto holds it for her as she pulls off her other glove, sinking teeth into that thumb as well, and then she drags them over both seals at the same time. For one moment, they both light up green, and then in only a single second, they fizzle out. Naruto frowns too. Maybe, he says, thinking. Maybe if we both do one. Karen blinks at him and then shrugs. Worth a try, she says, so they do it. One hand from each holds it still, one thumb from each drags over the seals, and they both light up green. It stays, casting an eerie glow to their faces, and with a quiet click it pops open. There's a book inside. Just a single book, no, it's a journal, with nothing written on the cover, and Karen scoops it up and flips it open carefully. She frowns and Naruto peeks over her shoulder. More secret writing, he asks, 'cause that's what it looks like to him, and she hesitates. Yes, and no, she says, which isn't really an answer. It is that language, but it doesn't make any sense. She considers it for a moment, tracing the words with a finger. A code. It's a code. Sealed in a secret Uzumaki getaway that only Uzumakis can get into, in an unlabeled cave, in a very well-hid storage seal in a chest that needs two people to open, in a secret Uzumaki language and then in code. What does it say? What could it possibly say? It's not something they can figure out right now, Karen deeming it too complicated for the moment, so they tuck it in her bag and leave this cave. The square lets them back into the Chamber of Three Paths, thankfully, and Naruto relights the little ball in his palm. I get to choose this time, he says, even though he's pretty sure now they're definitely checking out all three just in case. Let's do that one. He points at the one on the right, 'cause honestly he guesses the middle one is probably the way forward, now. Karen must be on the same page. Okay, she says, and they clasp hands as she runs her thumb over the seals, and they step into the light. Check the description for the links to the author.